All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to yet another interview on Renegade Con TV. Today, I am joined by the one, the only, Matt Lees. Matt, how are we doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm obviously inside in my land of tiny, colourful pears, just having a small coffee. It's a lovely day. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is exciting. I've been wanting to chat with you. Well, we've chatted at PAX U a few times, but I'm kind of excited to actually be able to talk to you and get to interview you. Do you remember?
You can't have conversations at conventions. It's impossible.
Right.
I do remember. Yeah,
right there. So
I never forget a pair that I sign. I love signing pairs. I've got the hang of it now. The first few were quite tricky. They're weird, lumpy objects, you know.
They really are. That was PAX U the first year you guys showed up, and I was actually commuting in. It was about an hour or so commute, and I knew you were there day one, and I went home, got the pair the next day, and I brought it, and I'm like, I'm gonna have him sign it. So
I think if I remember correctly, that first PAX Unplugged, we caused a lot of confusion in the local area just because I think that there were some local stores that sold bits and bobs for your house, and people had gone in being like, have you got any fake fruit? But only people were buying the pears. And so people who were running these shops were just going, what is going on? And I can't even explain what's going on, honestly. The people ask about the pears thing, it just sort of is now. It just is. I don't know.
Here I thought I was being special. I have a pear, I inherited that from my parents in the wooden bowl of fruit that sat.
That was a good one. That was one that was a wooden one, right?
Yeah.
A wooden one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good one. The thing is, I'm not going wrong. You're still quite special. If you go and clear out all of the household shops in the Philadelphia area that sell baked fruit, there's still only about 5 or 6 of them. There's no shop that has loads of them. So there weren't many. It doesn't take much to. It's not a thriving economy, I don't think. So
it's not like somebody's sitting there with a little graph chart saying, "Oh, PAX U's coming up. We better order more pears."
I mean, who knows? In the future, who knows? That would be weird, but I don't know. Stranger things have happened.
They have. Now it does lead me to ask, where did the pear come from? What is the origin of the pear, beside wibbly wobbly people?
Yeah, the wibbly wobbly. The pear thing came from. It was in a review. I always forget which review it was, but I have it in my mind. I'm no good at names, but it was a review where basically to show how big the components in the game were. They had a standardized reference pair. This was before I was part of the team, actually. This was really early days. So it was just a simple gag of being this is a standardized reference pair. I think it's funny immediately, but I think it's funny because it sounds like a conference pair. I didn't write the joke, so I don't know why it was supposed to be funny, but conference pair, reference pair, it made me laugh anyway. But the idea was, this idea of there being a standardized fruit that was a standard size that you could use to compare other things. And so because of that, it appeared in other videos. At one point, they had a standardized reference pineapple, I believe, which was just a pear full of cocktail sticks to make it spiky, which was just nonsense. But then reference pear, by the time I started working with Shut Up, Sit Down, reference pear had sort of become a character, become this sinister character who actually owned and ran the website and was sort of the sinister kind of behind the scenes shadowy character, and I kind of ran with that, and we had a lot of sort of dumb fiction we had a fun thing, but in the early days of Shut Up and Sit Down, when we were basically, people weren't doing crowdfunding in the way that they do now. I think now, because of the nature of how economies have shifted around, people are now much more comfortable with the idea of hey, if you want something to exist, then maybe you could just give a bit of money towards it, and then that thing will exist. Whereas 10 years ago, that was a much more alien idea. Now, unfortunately, because of the nature of economies generally, we can't necessarily have nice things for no reason anymore. When I was growing up, there were lots of things you could just have nice things for no reason. There would be great TV programs because there would be just budgets going into this country's going to make these TV shows with cultural money. Cultural money is not really a thing right now. and it should be. But in the meantime, that's the thing. So we did a thing where we sent out all of these packages of goodies to people, which was great fun. But it ended up being like, I didn't do anything else on the site for the first 6 months because I was just working on making these packages and then physically putting them together. But we had all sorts of fiction. I think at one point we had reference pairs sending people pretending they were shareholders and sending them a check for like billions of pounds. And then the next time we're sending them a letter being like, there's been a huge mistake, don't cash that check, a month later. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with that, and it still does pop up. We kind of forget, but I've got quite a few. Again, another thing, I get given knitted pairs sometimes at conventions. I've got a couple of them. The other one fell down the back of my desk, but I tend to hold on to a couple of them at least at a time. I think it's a lovely thing, you know. I like pears. I like eating them. I like looking at them. They're quite strange things.
Right.
Most fruit, let's be real, is fairly round, and pears are resolutely not round.
They're like lazy round, right? Like they started round and then they said, oh, I don't really want to get off this tree. You can't make me. You can't make me. And then just,
I don't want yeah, no, don't worry about that. That's it. It's like, I don't want to. They're kind of reticent and lazy.
Right.
Maybe that's why I like them. It's kind of the
or maybe they're tired of like the French putting bottles around them when they're kids and then turning them into liquor. I mean, like there could be that whole thing.
Yeah,
things going
pear-shaped. On their plate. That's true. That is true. Pear shapes aren't so bad, but yeah, the pear just is now, and it's one of those funny things where for a long time we as soon as we started trying to go to conventions and doing things, we had this idea of being like, well, what is our like. What does things look like? What is Shut Up and Sit Down? Like, if we want to make like, I mean, even some simple stuff like we're going to make some business cards, or like, we're going to be going on YouTube. We should probably make like a logo for the YouTube channel, or like a banner for the YouTube channel. We suddenly had all these things we needed to make that before it's like, this is a website and it just says Shut Up, Sit Down, orange letters, white back, and that's it. So all we really had was this one font, orange and yellow, and then it was just the thing of being like, well, what do we do? What else do we do? And because there's nothing to work with, and because we didn't really have any money, I just did all of the graphic design myself. And I just thought, well, all we've got at the moment is orange and pears. So I just started drawing pears on things and started making pear-based things. And yeah, we just never had any new ideas since.
So you're saying it kind of grew organically. That's where, you know.
Yeah, organic pear growing. Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's I love it because it's, you know, he morphed into a very friendly pear in the end. Like he's a lot more friendly and inviting now, even though he's giving me a little side eye at the moment and things like that. But very happy.
Well, there's a bunch of them over here. They're all. I think it's kind of fitting in a way. It's definitely kind of. What we do with it now is definitely kind of I guess it's what we do with everything, but I think they're quite an inclusive thing. Some oddly shaped things that are quite cheerful and quite friendly. A bit weird, but beloved. I think it's a nice image to project.
And I also think, you know, it's without even like intentionally doing it, I think it's a very kind of inclusive fruit because they come in all shapes and sizes, all different varieties. You know, I think it just fits on many levels. Well,
I think with what we've been trying to do over the past couple of years, like that's definitely a conscious thing. I had a discovery. I still do some video game stuff every now and then. Unfortunately, the video game project stuff I do is hugely delayed right now just because of everything. And I'm just doing a lot more on Shut Up and Sit Down, which is taking up a huge amount of my time. But a big part of that was we just made it like it's a YouTube channel with periodic videos called Cool Ghosts, and we just made it hot pink because like it turns out people who are really into video games, but also horrible people don't like the idea of looking at things on a channel that's hot pink. So just by having things that are a bit soft and a bit more gentle immediately, you kind of automatically put off people who are not the people you want to attract anyway. So
interesting.
There's a whole barrel of monkeys to do with audience management and audience growth. And when I say audience growth, it's not about like getting the numbers to go up. It's more about being like careful about it, being like what are we projecting with what we put out. And it's like everything you do. I think this is something that people don't understand on the internet. Is everything you do is going to come back to you, and that's not just necessarily like consequences of like you've made a mistake and you will be punished. It's more that like the nature of what you put out into the world is going to be reflected back at you by the audience that attracts. And if you're
Right.
making something which is mean-spirited and cruel, you will end up with an audience that is mean-spirited and cruel, and that's going to end up hurting you. So I think that that's the really key thing, is just being like thinking about the nature of what you're putting out there, why you're putting it out there, who's it for. It's just really, really important. It's way more important than how can we get lots of numbers on the internet. And that's always the thing I say to anyone who wants to start doing anything, is like, don't try and go for numbers, because you can get numbers. But if those numbers, if you've got like 10,000 people and you don't like them, and you can't get rid of them, like, it's really hard to get rid of an audience. And that sounds like a really like privileged thing to say, and I guess it is. But at the same time, what I'll always say to people is, if you put a video online and you end up just getting 50,000 views overnight, everyone will be like, that's amazing, that's brilliant, right? And no one will be like, oh, everyone will be like, wow, you just got 50,000 views on that videos. At the same time though, if you opened up your curtains in the morning and there were 50,000 people outside of your house, the first question you would ask yourself is, why are there 50,000 people outside of my house? And I think that's a really important distinction, because it's like, you can get a lot of traffic to something on the internet, but if it's for the wrong reasons, you're gonna have a really bad time. So, yeah, that's the synopsis of my frankly in-depth spiderweb of internet stuff that I think about too much.
So it kind of does bring up a question, because, you know, I'm Welsh and Irish and a little bit German here. So I'm very much the color I am. You and Quinn's also are of the same pasty variety. So how do we go about trying to make media that is for a diverse audience and kind of do that representation? Because I can tell in your recent shows, like, you know, with Normandy and things like that, that you are starting to make conscious social decisions here. So how are you guys kind of pivoting, or not even pivoting? How are you trying to be a little more obvious about these things?
Yeah, you know, that's a really tough one. And I think at this point, just trying to be supportive is really important. Just this week, you know, with the events happening in America, we've been kind of really horrified by that. But also, like, you know, not just in a sense of looking at it and being like, oh, that's terrible, what's happening in America, glad we're not in America. Because, you know, the UK has tremendous problems with systematic racism. It's just a different nature in the fact that we did a lot of our colonizing elsewhere, and, you know, Afro-Caribbean cultures. And if the Caribbean was right next to the UK, we would have a dramatic amount more of black people in the UK right now than we do. But we don't. So we have a strange situation of, because we hardly have any black people in the UK, lots of people feel like it isn't a racist country, when actually it kind of is. Systematically, you look at the data, you look at what happens, it is. So it's a frustrating time for everyone, I think. Or it should be, anyway. And what we're doing over this month is, we're doing, as usual, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep doing our live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week this month. But at the end of the month, any of the money we've made on Twitch, we're just going to give to a variety of charities that support black people in the United Kingdom and the US. But, you know, the problem of actually trying to be supportive versus shining a light on diversity is really actually a tricky one, right? Because if you can do as much as you want, you can keep saying to people, you should check out these channels, you should check out these people. But if people don't relate to those people, if people can't immediately go, oh yeah, I want to watch that, it kind of doesn't do anything. And we know this just from when we try and promote board games. You know, we can sell out board games incredibly quickly. But at the same time, we can put out reviews saying this game is one of the best games we've ever played, and not move the needle at all. And that's just because it doesn't matter how influential we are. If we put something in front of people and they think, I'm not really interested in that, they're not going to click on it. Like, we're not, you know, we're not religious gods. We can't demand that people do things just because we feel like it would be good if they did. So it's always just going to be a suggestion. So really the only thing we can do is to try and integrate and bring people in and work with people more. And that's something we've not been good at. Like, and partly that's something we've not been good at because of where we are in terms of proximity, you know. And right now it's changing a little bit because obviously we're doing a lot more stuff online, and I'm definitely thinking about ways we can improve on that. But in the past, it's been a case of like, you know, we're trying to do things physically in the same place. And when we put out a call for interns last year, we got 250 applications, a very small percentage of which were women. And I think maybe a tiny handful of people were, you know, people of color of any kind. So it's very hard. You know, we kind of think we would like to be getting some voices out there. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't know if if people from diverse minorities would be interested in watching what we do either. Like it's a tough thing of wanting to like promote people and bring them on board, but doing it in the right way of actually like giving people a voice. And I think that sometimes just saying, hey, you should watch this thing is not enough. And I'm keen to try and do more on that front, but it's tough. I think it's very hard to get people into it. And there's some fantastic people within the industry, you know, who are doing a lot, who I would like to work with more on that front. It's just a numbers game, and it sucks because it's like it's a problem. I think actually that's the key thing for me now. All I can do is admit that it's a problem. Like we have a lot of people who would prefer to think that there are no problems with inequality and discrimination within the board game industry, and they look at video games, which is let's be real, a trash fire most of the time, and they go, that's bad, but at least we're not bad. And it's like, no, actually we are bad. Like if you look online, like a lot of people who are getting the most prominent aggression and pushback are always women and people of color, even within board games. And whenever you bring up very gentle issues, as we do, you know, we don't do it too often because there's a degree of talking to people where they are, not where you want them to be. And I think it's a tricky line to walk with where we're at, because you kind of have to choose your battles, which you shouldn't have to, but you kind of have to, because if we in every single video review we do take 2 or 3 minutes out of 20, which is not much, don't get me wrong, that's nothing really, to point out some stuff that might be problematic about that game, that's going to be applauded by people who already know about that and who already would have spotted that. Or it might actually make some people who are already good at spotting this stuff, but they didn't see that, it might make them better at spotting stuff. But that's not as useful as maybe having someone having their opinion changed. And I think that's the tricky thing, is you have to, we choose our battles a little bit of going, okay, well, we're going to talk about this now, because if you don't, then you're just going to have people switch off. And ideally for us, the best thing that can happen is to have people who love watching our videos, think we're really funny, and then listen to us talking for a few minutes about something like race representation or gender representation in a game, and actually make them just think, I'd never really thought about that. Not sure how I feel about it, but maybe I'll think about that more in the future. And if we can do that, that's amazing. And I know from experience that does happen. Like the problem is often we get the blunt edge of the sword, and the fact that we get people coming to us and saying, I used to think you guys were great, but now you're a bunch of liberal idiots and and I hate you and all this. And it's like, okay, but by the same measure, I do meet people all the time who say, hey, listen, when I started watching the videos that you made, I was 15, 16, and I didn't know anything about anything. And that your videos were the things that stopped me from going down a black hole and becoming an internet idiot.
Well, I tell you, it's why I ask is A, because of, you know, obviously current events, but also B, the at the end of the Normandy, not Normandy, which one am I thinking? Undaunted, sorry.
Oh,
I
Undaunted.
loved.
Yes.
I mean, that's a piece of history that is, you know, I mean, as British people, obviously that's even more part of your culture, and it's something I knew nothing about coming out of World War II, and that was amazing.
It's something that I knew very little about until a couple of years ago, really. I think that, you know, for all of its ills and for all of the ways I wish it would be just shut down, I have found that Twitter has been an enormously educating thing for me over the past 6-7 years of just following lots of people from lots of different cultures and lots of different backgrounds and lifestyles from around the world, and just getting an eye-opening view on what reality is like for different people and what history we're taught and what history we're not. And I think that's an incredible problem in the UK, is that we're not taught about any of the bad things that our country has done, really. Like Churchill is this hero within the UK, and actually you look into his background and he could have quite easily been on the same side as Hitler. You know, it's like he was a pretty nasty piece of work in many ways. And then also the things like, I remember being shocked when I was about 19 or 20 and I learned about the Opium Wars in the back of a cab driver just telling me about the Opium Wars, and me having to be like, hang on a minute, so Britain like was selling opium, which, you know, basically is a less refined version of what would become heroin, to China, and then China's like, please stop selling us opium, you're destroying our country. And our country's response was to go, all right, well, we're going to send the army in on boats to make sure that we can keep shipping in opium to your country. And it's just like, we were just like drugs pushers of the world. And it's just this bizarre thing of being like, how am I an adult and I've never heard that? And then you start to peel away at it and you go, well, hang on a minute. Like, So I think when we have got opportunities like that, and I think there's a lot of trickiness with that because so many board games are actually based around World War II, and World War II for a long time has been this really fertile ground for the beginnings of strategic and tactical games. And there's really good reasons for that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, you know, the fact that you did have historically, in terms of like the units and in terms of the technology, in terms of stuff, you had some interesting scenarios going on, right? And also for a long time, we had this very easy thing of being like, oh, well, the Nazis are the baddies. It's the goodies and the baddies, right?
Right. It's very
so
black
there's a lot
and
of
white,
reasons
right?
why exactly. Like, it's a lot of reasons why it worked. But then even now it's kind of complicated in the fact that it's like, well, like you've got a lot of historical revisionism and you've got a lot of people twisting stuff. And then you've got a lot of, I think it becomes more frustrating when people just go, well, these things are just escapism. You know, these things are just silly. But actually with current events in the world and stuff, it's like, it feels a little bit relevant again in ways that, gosh, it shouldn't. But I just think there's a bit more of an eye to it. They've because they're more relevant now, because stuff like games with Nazis in is more relevant. You do need a bit more scrutiny on them. It can't just be like a history thing anymore, because unfortunately right now it's not history anymore. It's relevant again. So yeah, God, I'm looking forward to the future where hopefully like things can be a bit more chill and we can just play board games. You know what I mean?
Right. Come on, Star Trek. I'm waiting.
Well, we've got some work
I'm
to
waiting.
do first. Yeah, we've got some work to do first. But, you know, fingers crossed we'll get there.
Whoever thought that, like, you know, begging for an alien attack would actually be on your wish list, you know, kind of. Come on, planet. Let's fix this. Let's get united against the common enemy, right? But
I'm not sure aliens would bother with us at this point.
They're like, oh, they're doing just fine. We'll have that planet in 100 years. Don't worry about it.
It's probably like that. The gif of Donald Glover coming into Community with the pizzas to discover everything's on fire. I think it's kind of that. I think if aliens were to turn up now, they just look and go, give them a minute. Like, let's just
they're like looking in the oven, going, not done yet, and then just kind of
not done.
So speaking of ovens, because I'm the master of segues here, you guys started out like doing the shut up and sit down reviews. You added like cooking bits in the reviews when you initially had them. Like
yeah.
What happened? Because they were always fun. Like, I always wanted to learn how to make, you know, like falafel and play some through the ages. I thought that would be great.
Yeah, you know, I get this a lot, and I really should bring it back a little bit. It's funny. I can't remember why we started doing it in the first place. I think it was the idea of like, because it was for the opener, it was for this idea of like, here's a board game that will help you get your friends into games, and you can make them a custom cocktail or something to go with it, like to make it a bit more thematic. And then it just expanded into food. I would like to do more of that. It's kind of funny in the fact that the main thing that's changed since, well, it was easier then because it was a separate series where it was like, when you watch this kind of shut up, sit down review, you get a recipe at the end. Whereas I think if we just generally had it like every now and then in a review, there was
just throw a cocktail in there.
I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to do it just because of the chaos. People would just be like, what's happening? The other thing that makes it a bit tricky, though, is I think the fun of those things originally was I was a bit crap at cooking. I was just cobbling stuff together, and I was just like, well, we're going to make this thing. And it worked because people would watch it and they might not cook, and they go, oh, I could do that. And then they'll cobble something together and be like, oh, this is quite good. The problem is, since then, I've become really good at cooking.
Excellent.
Which is great for me. But I don't know if it will work in the same way. I don't know if
it's losing some of the humor.
I don't know if it would. I don't know. Like, it's like when you switch on a cookery show and you think, oh, I can't do that. That's too complicated. Is it fun to watch anymore? I don't know. But we're going to try. We're going to see. Like, we're doing the live streaming at some point in the next month. I'm probably going to do a day of just cooking in the kitchen or something, and just switch on some cameras and just make a bunch of food.
I like it. I think you should, because
hopefully you should enjoy that.
Yeah, you're always fun in the kitchen, you know, running around, and it was always interesting to watch. So I encourage it.
Well, I'm still fun in the kitchen. I'm just on my own, just singing to myself, and talking to myself.
See, that's
basically
what needs a
turning into
camera,
my
right?
mother.
Oh,
yeah, I know. It's true.
I actually put a large TV in my kitchen, so when I'm cooking, I can just like watch YouTube or listen to Pandora, just so I can zone out and have some fun. So I totally get it.
That's pretty
Totally.
good. I did used to do a horrifying version of that, which was to have my iPad in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Just to watch, like, I watched some Star Trek Next Generation whilst I was cooking, because it's basically a radio show. You don't need to look at it very often. You just
Right.
glance over and go,
And you're
okay, that's what the
remembering
new
it,
character
right?
looks like. Yeah. Every time you hear music, you know that something's happening that you need to look at. And so you go, all right, okay. And then you can just listen to the conversations. It's fine. But I did end up putting that behind the cooker. Like, and it was like, it's quite an old iPad, but there's a point where like you're spattering oil from the pans on your iPad and you're like, is this bad? If someone comes to my kitchen now, will they call the police? I don't know.
Yeah, and you try to get like the
TV makes more sense.
It got so bad. I literally have a wooden spoon that has like one of those little nubs on the end that I can like touch the screen with. When I started buying that, I'm like, you know what? I should just invest the afternoon and like mount a TV on this wall, because this is stupid. And I tell you what, I use it every day. It's the dumbest thing. I'm like, oh, just
that sounds good.
It works. So I highly recommend it. You know, like, take it out of the bedroom, put it in the kitchen. That's where it makes more sense. Right?
I don't even have a TV in the bedroom, actually. My wife's not very fond of TVs.
Oh, good.
This TV I'm on right now is probably bigger than any TV I've ever owned. Whoa. I'm living inside my dream.
There you go. It's like a little fishbowl of dreams.
I keep thinking about, you're talking about utensils for poking things. Something mad happened to me the other day. I've been cooking for years, using kitchen stuff for absolutely years. You know spatulas?
Right?
You know what spatula is? It's a spatula. It's a little plastic. Everyone knows what a spatula is. It's a spatula. I know it's a spatula. I've been calling it a spatula for my entire life. About a month ago, my wife came into the kitchen and said, "Where's the squishy spoon?" And I was like, "What is the squishy spoon?" And she found the spatula and said, "The squishy spoon." And I was like, "It's not even a spoon. It's flat." But now, it's like my entire memory of my whole life has just been erased retroactively. And it's just like every mention of spatula is just gone. It just goes squishy spoon, squishy spoon, squish. And now it's like, it's a squishy spoon. It's just like, it's a virus that's just destroyed my brain.
And the best thing is like I can hear that inner accent, which is, you know, for us Americans, it adds that extra level of charm. And now it's going to forever be called the squishy spoon, because it should.
It's just an immediate
not a rubber spatula. It's a squishy spoon.
It's the squishy spoon. And I'm like, it really annoys me, because it's now what my brain has decided it is. It doesn't really make any sense. But, you know, that's my brain's fault. It's no one else's fault.
Unfortunately, like, I never talk to anybody else when I'm in my kitchen, because I'm the cook in the house. So like my wife Sharon, she sits on the couch while I cook dinner. Typically, she'll help. Don't get me wrong, but I'm fine.
You've got a TV. You've got a TV in the kitchen. You should get a couch in the kitchen as well.
If I could cook sitting down, I think I would. But you know, nowadays I'm getting to the point. Honestly, Matt, I'm to the point where I'm tired of sitting down. Like, my whole life was running restaurants, working in kitchens, and standing for, 12, 14 hours a day. And now I'm like sitting for like 8 and I'm wiped. I'm like, I hate it. I think I need to invest in a standing desk. Yeah, I think it makes sense. But it's not the same as walking around. Yeah, it's not the same as walking around a kitchen or a restaurant, though. You know, it's like my poor Fitbit.
I miss it. I do miss it. There was a weird thing where after about, like, very shortly after lockdown, but like, well, I say that I'd been locked down for a while, but then very shortly after the official lockdown, like a month after, basically, I'd been inside. I had to go back to the place where I used to have an office to just bring the rest of my stuff back, basically, because I thought, you know what, I'm not going to be able to come and use this space for like a year, maybe top minimum. So I thought, let's just bring everything back. So I brought everything back, but it meant I went to a building that had stairs, and I had the realization that it had been a month since I'd been upstairs. I was like, because I don't have any, I live in a bottom floor flat. So it's just like, there's no stairs in my life anymore. So it's a bizarre thing now. Like, now it's been like 2.5 months. It's been 2.5 months since I've walked up and down some stairs. At some point, I'm going to get on some stairs again, and it's going to be like, this is wild.
You're gonna have like muscle atrophy, and you're going to be like winded after 2 flights.
You would never imagine that like walking up some stairs could feel weird and alien. But trust me, if you haven't done it for like a month, you're like, oh, this is weird. Like using muscles I've never had. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it's definitely it's going to take some adjustment. And I mean, I was transitioning into more of a like with I was coming out of restaurants into board games when this all went down anyway. So it's a double transition, and it's not easy. I'm struggling a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. You know.
I think everyone's been struggling a little bit, to be honest. Like it's been a really weird time, and I think it's especially, obviously right now there are more important things going on,
Sure.
but I think more broadly, before any of that stuff, like it's an especially difficult time for people, I think, whose main hobby and main interest is board games, because it's really very difficult right now. Like, yes, we have some digital options, but I don't think any of them really land, or any of them really are a decent replacement for the same experience. And it's like, even thinking to myself, oh, well, maybe in a few months I could work out where I could sit 2 meters away from a friend and play a board game. But it's like, yeah, but you're always touching the same things. It's like the whole part of the experience is let's all sit next to each other and touch the same things and like laugh and share food. It's like, no, 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 no. So, and I think as well, like lots of people who are big into the hobby, myself included, really enjoy board games as a way of socializing with people when sometimes you don't have the energy to directly socialize, and you just sort of want to sit in the company of people and do something.
Right.
And
that
I think
shared
that's
experience.
yeah. And like, if you want to talk and joke, you can, but otherwise I'm just going to do some things with cards and move some cubes around and be quite chill. And I don't think any of the digital options we currently have offer that right now. I don't think like, Zoom chats or Tabletop Simulator offer you the sensation of just physically being with people, quietly doing something. And I think that's hard. And I think especially like if you're people who, like myself, really rely on that as a kind of weekly or twice a week or once every 2 weeks kind of ritual of being like, I'm just going to sit with some people and do a thing. So yeah, I think it's a strange time, and I think it's fine to just feel. I think even though there are like more crazy and more important things happening in the world right now, I think it's really important that people allow themselves to be having a difficult time and allow themselves to be feeling like things are a bit of a struggle. Because if you don't, that way madness lies. You'll beat yourself up into oblivion. And I think you have to recognize that it's okay. Like, we're all grieving a small lost future. Like, I had plans for this summer, I had plans for this year, and it's all not happening now. Like, that's a form of grief. Like, we're grieving for something that died, a future that doesn't exist anymore. And we can make a new one, and that's fine, and we'll get to that. But it's still okay to be sad about it. It's one of the reasons really why we're doing the streaming stuff. Like, I can't really play board games with people physically right now, and it hurts so much. So I've got some great things. I think, talking of Renegade, one of the things I got just before we kicked off was a copy of Clank Legacy, and I really quite like Clank in Space, and I was really excited to give that a go.
And then all of this, it's so good.
And I will play it. Like, it will happen. I've got some other great stuff. I've got like King's Dilemma. It's like, I'll play that at some point. Like, it will happen. It's just not yet. And so I can't really review games in the way I traditionally would right now. And I could maybe do that to a degree by playing stuff on Tabletop Simulator, but I don't think that's going to be an accurate representation of what the games are actually like. I think the same thing goes the other way around. We've got lots of games that are probably being play tested now that will be play tested exclusively in Tabletop Simulator. And I'll be really interested to see how they shake out as physical things, because it's not the same. Right. So, that's kind of why we're doing the streaming stuff really at the moment, is because there's a lot of people who are just feeling a bit isolated and a bit stuck right now. And it's like, look, if we can just do a thing twice a week, just give people a little thing that's fun, doesn't matter what it is. Because I think, we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. We might love the hobby and we might want to do the best for it, but right now everyone just needs to kind of try and be good to themselves and try and relax and try and accept that this is just a temporary, it's a temporary thing. It's quite tricky having these two massive problems going on at the same time, because I'm not talking about like obviously the problems with inequality as being like, this is a temporary thing, it'll go away. I'm talking about the COVID stuff.
The being able to like, assemble and play games comfortably again, and where's that level of comfort come from people? And I think maybe that's probably one of the biggest struggles. Is it's not like if I were a golfer, like, I know that there's an end in sight for me. Like, I know by summer I can probably be playing, or I'm a skier. Like, I can probably will be able to ski next winter. Like, things might be weird. It might take a while, but it'll happen. But with board gaming, I don't know that we have that. Like, I don't know that we know, like, by the fall, we'll be able to have 4 people sitting around a table comfortably, or is it gonna I like there's this really huge question mark around what that's going to look like, and I think that's
And
the
it's
biggest
obviously as
scary
well,
part, right?
it's very dependent for different people. It depends entirely on where you are in the world. Like some places are going to be much more dangerous for a long
Sure.
time. I think the UK is going to be very dangerous for a very long time because our government are just insane ideologues. Frankly, it's like I don't know what they're doing. But that's difficult and upsetting because it means we're probably going to be in a really rough spot in our country for a very long time. And also, like I'm in a house which is basically a kind of equivalent of a shielding house. We can't really do anything socially. Like we do go out and stuff, but we have to stay well away from people. And it's like I need to wait till there's a vaccine, basically. So it's like I'm
Really?
not going to be
Okay.
able to go back to normal. So
Okay.
it's like if some people it might just be like, okay, well look, if we all lock down for a while, then it'll be safe and we can do this. But for other people, it's frustrating because it's going to be a longer period of time. And already in the UK, a lot of people have decided they don't really care anymore and they're just going on about their life and getting back to things. And it's like, okay. And that's again hard because you realize that whenever people are doing that, it just means it's just adding time for the clock for you for how long,
Right.
how long might it be till it's a bit safer? And you go, all right. But again, this stuff it's all out of our hands. It's okay to feel a bit frustrated about it, but there's no point feeling angry about all the COVID stuff because it is what it is. And I think the sooner everyone accepts it, the easier
Right.
it is. But it's been great to see things like this, things like Renegade Con this weekend of the industry really pulling together to try and be like, what can we do? Like, because I think that the core of Shut Up and Sit Down is definitely more about people than it is about games. We're always reviewing games and talking about games through the lens of how can this enable a social experience that will be joyful or interesting. And I think the games industry broadly is about that. It's like people who want to sit away and tinker and fiddle with systems on that, and are obsessed with just the systems. Their video games are kind of great for that, to be honest. You want to be involved
Right.
with a complicated system on your own, you get a PC. Whereas like board games broadly it's about wanting to be with people and do things with people. And I think it's rough, and it's great to see everyone doing what they can right now because I think it's going to be a rough time. We're hopefully going to do some stuff later in the year, similar to this. Can't really announce anything at this point, but we're hopefully going to be doing something to just try and give something back, try and help everyone out a little bit. But it's like, what can you do?
Right. So you guys started Shucks about 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
So what made you choose like the left coast of Canada? Come on, that it'd be so much easier if you said, let's make it in Montreal. Like this would be like, come on, that would be easy.
I know.
But you said, no, we want to go all the way over there. Like where did that decision come from?
I mean, it was just close to where people were in terms of people we work with who are
Gotcha.
running it. Chris, who is one of the people who works behind the scenes for Shut Up Sit Down, lived very close to Vancouver, basically, and it made sense.
Yeah,
and that's not like
feet on the ground, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's not like, oh, I'm lazy, I can't be bothered. It's just do it next to my house. It's not that close. It's more that like actually starting something like that, actually building and running a physical convention.
Yeah.
You need a lot of time on the ground. You need meetings. You need looking at stuff. There's all sorts of mad complexities to do with running conventions that have blown my mind, and I'm actually extremely distant from it. I should point out that like all of the work that has gone into Shucks over the years has been from Chris and Lisa, who work with us at Shut Up Sit Down,
Right.
who are incredible, and they've done a huge amount, and all of the people who volunteer to make the show what it is. Like, those are the people who really have built it from the ground up and put a tremendous amount of time in. And I put a little bit of time in here and there to do things like schedules and art and production and help out with things, but really they do all of it, and then I just occasionally hear snippets of it and I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like, there's so many things about it that I'm like, that's insane. Like, for a long time we just moved to the convention center last year and we couldn't even get people to call us back. We were just like, we'd like to book this space out, please. And they just like wouldn't email us. We had kept emailing them being like, can we rent this space out? Because people just, I don't know, they just must assume you're time wasters or something. And it's like, we can do this thing. Like, and we're just like, what do we do if what do we do if they just don't return our calls or don't return our emails? Like, where do you go with this? And there's all sorts of other things, like discovering why conventions have crap food. It's like, it turns out that like a
I can
part of
only
it,
buy from this person, and that's all they
yeah.
led.
Well,
And
actually, you get to choose the margins. It's actually like the old PC game theme park of being like, well, you can choose what kind of food gets served, but they have to make this much profit from the food they're selling in the convention hall. Otherwise, you will then owe us this much money. So you've got to make, like, I don't know. I'm literally pulling a number out of nowhere now. This doesn't exist, but it's like they say you've got to make 20 grand on food, and then it's like, well, then it's up to you what the food is. And that's why it's always like really bad hot dogs, because it's like the markup on those things is crazy. It's like it costs nothing, sell it for like $7, and it means like no one has a good time, but they're definitely going to make their money back. Whereas if you offer really good food, then it might mean that everybody buys it because it's really good, and then the margins are less good, but you make the money. But if people don't buy the food and they go outside, you then owe a colossal quantity of money. So
wow.
yeah, I don't know. That's the sort of boring detail that I find absolutely fascinating when I learn about why all conventions have bad hot dogs. I'm like, now I know. Love it.
There you go. Interesting. So the what was kind of the impetus for saying, like, we're generating content, let's put on a convention? Because come on, let's be honest, that leap is, that's a pretty big leap in my opinion.
Going from making a video to making a room full of thousands of people.
I know, right?
Basically the same thing. Is that nice?
It is. It really is.
I don't know. I think we were just looking at things and we were like, okay, what can we do? Like we kind of felt like we wanted to do something else. We had this amazing support behind the scenes from Chris and Lisa, and we thought, what can we do with this? Like, and we did spend a long time being like, because I want to do this job for a long time. Like, this is a great job. Like, I love doing Shut Up and Sit Down. It brings me a lot of joy. I think it brings other people a lot of joy.
Excellent.
And it's really nice. One of the things I'm really missing this year is going to conventions and just getting to meet some of the people who enjoy what we do and talk to them, because that refills my batteries, it's knowing that like we're doing some silly things that bring people happiness. So we were thinking, well, we want to keep doing this. You can't keep just expecting things to stay the same forever. Case in point, 2020.
Sure.
So you have to kind of have a plan for something. So we think, well, look, we're already very lucky in the fact that we have a donation-based model where lots of people will happily fund our work because they love it, which is great. And then we're like, well, what else can we do to have a secondary thing as a sort of a backup or whatever? And we looked at some things, and the convention was just the thing that made the most sense. We didn't really want to go into doing loads of advertisement. We didn't really want to go into sponsorship. And we did think about merchandise, but we didn't really want to. We still want to do that, but we don't really want to be doing merchandise as a kind of like big money maker. We want it to be like more of a kind of, hey, people would like a t-shirt. Let's try and facilitate it so people can have a t-shirt. So it was the thing that made the most sense. And also, like, we had a community focus for a long time. We've only run 2 Shuxes. I don't know what the status is going to be. I think this year is going to be a bit more complicated. We should hopefully get some concrete details on all of that soon. But
sure,
up until this year, it's been going really well, and the sense of community there has been incredible. I think it's got a really special atmosphere, and we're scared, I think, about trying to capture the spirit of Shut Up and Sit Down's online community and put it into a physical space, because it's so much harder to manage physical spaces. But I think it's kind of worked, and I think that hopefully, if it will be able to continue into the future, I think it's kind of out of our hands now in a nice way. I think it has a good culture, and hopefully it will just continue to have a good culture. But these things are, like I was talking about right at the start of this interview, these things are very delicate and very difficult things. And there's a point at which you can be controlling, and there's a point at which you just have to accept that it's just chaos now, and like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And you can try and steer the boat, but the boat might just be gone.
All of a sudden you're just sitting there like doing a cartoon, driving something, and it's completely gone.
But it is bizarre that it's halfway across the world, and people are always like, why is it in Vancouver? And it's like, okay, it's like there are good reasons for it being in Vancouver.
Sure.
But also it's obviously frustrating for everyone who isn't anywhere near Vancouver.
Yeah, it's a bit of a flight. It's one I want to make someday. What I'm thinking is, like, maybe do that and then do like a cruise to Alaska that leaves from Vancouver. I'm thinking like, do the shops
lovely,
and
it?
then do a cruise. Like, I think that would be.
They've got some train rides in Canada that look
Yes.
absolutely blissful.
That would be great.
I mean, they're so expensive, but they look amazing. Because to me in the UK, like we spend a lot of money on trains, but that's just because our entire social system is broken.
Yeah.
But it's just terrible. But you know, with these, it's like these are super expensive train rides, but you get on a lovely train, you get to see mountains and stuff, and they bring you breakfast. And I'm like, wow, if I had a lot of money, I'd get on a cool mountain train. That looks relaxing as heck. I'd love that. But no, I have had some lovely times out there. I managed to get up Whistler the first year we went, and
Nice.
It's just absolutely beautiful. It's just, honestly, after you've spent 3 or 4 days just talking to people nonstop, just being able to walk out into nature and just stare at nothing for a while as your brain melts it's just so, it's like a balm. It's very nice.
It might be also totally understandable why a certain member of Shut Up and Sit Down chose to move there, in fact, because it is so lovely and gorgeous and nice.
Exactly.
So
it is a beautiful place. I don't know if I could
Absolutely.
live there, but it's a beautiful place.
excellent. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything huge coming up from you guys that you want to talk about? I mean, we kind of touched on a lot of bases there. Anything we should pay attention for?
Well, I'm pretty excited about next Thursday. We're doing something which we haven't done for a while. I haven't really done ever. I'm going to be running an RPG session on Twitch. We're going to be doing a few things. It's going to be once every 2 weeks. And rather than just jumping in and doing the traditional, it's going to be Dungeons and Dragons, I'm going to be running some Mothership, which is kind of science fiction horror.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of preparation for that, and I think it should be really quite cool. And I'm really excited about the people we've got on it. We've got Ava Foxfort, who does a lot of the news writing and writing for our website, who's just an incredible talent. We've got Philippa War. Pip is going to be there. Old school Shut Up and Sit Down fans will, of course, know and love Pip. She's just the best. And Tom is going to be there as well, our newest staff member, who's just wonderful. So I'm really excited about that. Also, Quinn's has been doing some incredible work lately about just print and play games, stuff you can just print off and check out. I actually, this afternoon, just after on my lunch, just playing a bit more of bargain basement bathysphere, which is just it's pretty great. I'll try and find one I did with coloured pens because it looks quite attractive. But look at these, look at that. Lovely
that looks
colours.
very nice. I might have to check that one out.
Oh, it's really good. You basically, like, you have a terrible submarine and you try and dive into the sea and it goes wrong. But it's thrilling. It's kind of like XCOM, but with fish. But it's not. I don't know. I haven't quite worked out why I love it yet. But it has a real element of pushing your luck and staying in a mission when you know you should be going home.
I kind of like all those things.
Oh, it's real good. It's real good. And the plot development in it is wild.
Cool.
Which is not something you expect to say from a print and play game, I guess. Well, I thought that, but it turns out print and play is bizarre and wonderful. So definitely go and check out some of those videos about if you're bored, and Skint. We've got some great things you can do that cost zero money. You just need a printer or access to someone who has a printer. And as I say, next Thursday on Twitch. So it's twitch.tv/Shut Up and Sit Down. We're doing it at 3 p.m. UK time. I can't remember off the top of my head what that relates to in other time zones.
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Eastern.
So it's a bit of an early start. 9 a.m. Eastern.
You know what, though? It's perfect for somebody to put on while they're working because they can put that on.
I think so.
And then watch them work. So. Excellent. And Mothership is
fun stuff.
Mothership is great. I got to do a one shot of that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you'll have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I've played it once and I liked it.
Excellent.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how we can work out a way of doing that and making something that's a bit RPG horror-y, but not too far away from being Shut Up and Sit Down. But I think
we have a few titles. I think we have a few titles that could probably fit that series when you're done that one. I think, some people might like. I think we'd like to see you do some Kids on Brooms, just because I think that would be right up your alley, right?
Yeah, we'll see. Like, it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Awesome.
And it was all about trying to get the people physically into the same space.
It's hard. It's hard.
And now we literally can't do that. So it's like, okay, we'll do it over Skype. But no, I'm excited about that. So that should be cool.
Well, I'll tell you what. It took this for me to actually get into a game, a regular RPG game myself. we're doing a kids on bikes, but it took this for me to say I will set aside these 4 hours every week to play. But I'm glad I did because I love it. I have so much fun.
Yeah, I'm hyped. A bit of nerves, it's like I've
Oh,
never,
yeah.
I have last time I ran an RPG, I ran a session of Cyberpunk, and that was in I must have been about 12 or 13, and it wasn't very good. I think the most enjoyable thing about it was one of the bits of level design, and I literally had just copied a level from Perfect Dark from memory.
Right.
So yeah,
It's tough.
I'm looking forward to going back into this, knowing that the role of a GM is not just to bash people through a story that you've written, and I'm doing my homework, I'm doing my prep, I'm getting some stuff sorted out, and I haven't done enough of that prep, but I'm excited but terrified, which I think is in my past experience, that's usually the recipe for something that's going to be quite good. So
I think
we'll
so.
see.
Highly recommend any RPG runners who are doing this online, use the tabletop audio. It's really helpful in setting theme and tone, and they kind of have a soundboard option now where you can go in and you can actually do like glass breaking, or they'll have a sci-fi soundboard with a couple music tracks. So it really kind of helps you with just kind of, as a GM, you got a lot to focus on. You don't want to focus on that too, but looking over and clicking a button is not that hard. So highly recommend
I've
that.
been looking into that, actually. I've been really looking into that. It's just the trickiness of trying to find something I can use because of license, because obviously we're going to be broadcasting it. It's going to be a video. So I've looked at a few things that look great, and they're like, yeah, you can use it if you're just using it with your friends. It's like, what if you're making videos? And they're like, well, hold on there. That's fair. So I need to do some research into what I can legally use, because having some cool sci-fi noise in the background. I don't really have time to make my own science fiction music.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole that just drives me insane. But.
I mean, God, by the end of this lockdown, who knows? I've already got the hair to be a ridiculous synth music star, so maybe that's the way it's going at this point. Who knows?
Get your Devo hat out and you'll be good. So there you go.
I do have a gigantic electric keyboard that I borrowed from someone.
Excellent.
Because it had been in his cupboard and he hadn't used it, and lo and behold, it's now been in my cupboard and I haven't used it.
I totally could.
Endures.
I could see you doing a keytar too, though. I think that could it'd totally be on brand, right? Outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, this has been.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. We kind of hit some more serious topics, but I think given the time frame when we're doing this, I think it's important to at least have a conversation and open it up a little bit. So
I was writing something in the newsletter for people for Shut Up and Sit Down this week, and at the end of the day, it's like we all care about games, but if you care about games, then you should understand that like an absolutely fundamental beginning ground for having a nice experience with other people is establishing a clear sense of fairness. That is what games are. Like, games are rules. We will all sit there, we will all establish what is fair and what isn't fair, and we'll all be happy with it, and then we can all have a nice time. And really, it's just the same thing right now. Like, for people to be ignoring all of this stuff or going, okay, I don't want to understand that. I understand people need a bit of escapism, and people don't want to have to stare things in the face all the time. But at the same time, particularly as people who aren't in the firing line, really, people who are not given a hard time, this is the point where we need to go through the rules. This is the time where, we want to have a play and we want to have a nice time, but this is the point where we have to establish things. We have to go, okay, let's make this fair for everyone. If we can make this fair for everyone can have a nice time. But until we do that, it's not time to play. So that's people don't agree, that's fine, but that's my approach on it,
No, I think it's absolutely right. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap. I don't think we can do any better than that. So we're going to...
Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for making the time. Like, I know you are a very busy man in the basement, or in the cupboard, as it were.
I'm not busy. I'm just stressed. It's fine.
You can be busy and you can be sitting still and still be completely busy, right? Like,
no, it's true.
This is our reality at the moment, so I totally understand. So thank you. This has been a complete joy, just getting to know you and ask some of the questions that have been burning in my mind for years, and adds to this. It adds to this. So
I'll pretend to sign it through the screen if you want again.
Yeah, but like what's kind of weird is Quinn's gave me a XOX, which is just kind of slightly.
Hugs and kisses.
Yeah.
Take them if you can get them. That's what I say. Okay. I mean, they're harder to come by right now, so just hold on to them. Okay. You move it back a bit.
There you go.
Do this.
right there.
That's a Sharpie noise. There we are. Thank you very much.
Outstanding.
Have a lovely day.
You guys do the same. We'll see you around the convention.
See you. Bye.